Welcome to the Packaging Etc. podcast, where we will discuss all things packaging and some things not. We will hear from professionals across all areas of the industry: design, engineering, manufacturing, and many more. We will learn about packaging trends, new technologies, and cutting-edge innovations. This podcast is all about showcasing our favorite parts of the industry, the people, and giving them a platform to share their stories and their knowledge of packaging. Let's take this journey together. And now, your host, Matt Mulvey.
Hi, folks. Welcome back. Really excited to kick off season 2 of the Packaging Etc. podcast. And as teased in my last episode 10 from season 1, my resolution this season was to bring in someone special as a co-host for some of my episodes. So excited for this. Let me introduce my friend Kristen Shaner to the show.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to be here as well.
So, as we start off with all of our episodes, do me a favor and just kind of give everybody a flavor for who you are, where you work, where you come from, what we can expect out of you, and obviously this and some future episodes.
Cool. Yeah. So, as Matt said, I'm Kristen Shaner. Currently, I'm the sales manager at Wexler Packaging Products. This is our 51st year in business. We just celebrated our 50th year last year, which, Matt, you were actually at our celebration for that as well.
I was, and I think I even mentioned that 50th anniversary celebration in my last episode.
Oh, look at that. We'll have to make sure I go back and listen to that. So I've been with Wexler for 16 years. Well, it'll be 16 years in February, excuse me. And one of the things that I often like to say is that I knew nothing about packaging. I didn't even know packaging was an industry. I went to school for something different, and I knew I wanted to do sales. As many of you know, I have the gift of gab, and I like people. So it seemed like a natural fit for me. I always thought that maybe I'd fall into pharma sales. But again, I knew nothing. I went on an interview. And I remember when I sat down with Patty, she asked me a packaging question. And I remember just like all I thought about was toilet paper. I don't even know why, but that's what hit my brain. So 16 years later, almost, and I'm still there. And I love the industry. I don't think I'll ever go anywhere else. I couldn't imagine myself being a part of a community any different than this one. I was a sales rep, outside sales rep for most of my tenure there, covering the Northeast territory. And a little bit more than 2 years ago, I transitioned into the sales manager role. So I run the sales team and hoping to grow the sales team and continue to grow the business. Wexler is a family-owned, second-generation run, women-owned business. And we really focus on helping clients with frustrations around their end-of-line bundling. Our niche is paper banding, and it's a more sustainable alternative than, say, shrink wrapping or inner cartons. And we're lucky enough. I think one of the reasons I've stayed for so long is that we work in so many industries, pharma, food, commercial printing. It's just fun because every day is different. And I often say the show, how is it made? That's my life. And I really get to see some very, very cool production facilities. And I love that. It's a fun part of my job. My side hustle, as I like to call it, is NJPEC. I started, I think that I joined in like 2015, 2016, maybe. Another colleague of mine was part of the organization, and having the New Jersey territory, it made sense for me to join. Even though I don't live in New Jersey, but because we do a ton of business in New Jersey, it made sense. So I joined the organization, and I think that I joined the board around 2017, 2018. I remember showing up to Package of the Year and being like, what is going on? I knew nothing. I didn't even know anybody in the room, really. I knew like 3 people. And somehow they reeled me in to the executive board a few years later. And I just finished out my 2-year term as the president, and which was over 2023 and 2024. So now I'm a trustee and help run some of the events and, just put my hand in the pot wherever they need me. So That's how you and I really have, I would say, reconnected, maybe because we knew each other from during that time, but become closer maybe is the better way to put it.
Yeah.
Become
Yeah.
good friends through our, NJPC, the love for giving back to the students. And I often think to myself, I wish I had an organization like NJPC when I was a student. The mentorship and the connection that we offered to students, I think it's something that's really a really big passion of mine. And I love getting to know the students and learn who they are. And then seeing them come out of college and land at big companies like Mondelez and Johnson and Johnson, and watch them flourish in their packaging engineering roles. So that's a little bit about me. At home, I live in right outside of Philly. I have two little girls. Today's actually my oldest daughter's 5th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Sad moment for me.
And you're taking time out of that day to spend time with me recording this podcast.
I am. She's at daycare. She insisted on going. I got cupcakes. She'll be there till lunchtime, and then I'll go grab her. Mom's got to work, right?
Yeah. So, sorry, I just wanted to interject for a second. And it's interesting because you kind of gave me a moment of pause there when you spoke about packaging as a community. And thinking back through conversations that I have with people, I always refer to it as the packaging industry. But just changing one word, it really, at least being on this side of it and being inside the industry, it really is a community, the packaging community. And so even though it's just a one word change, I feel like it conveys a much different feeling for the type of experiences that we get exposed to professionally, personally through the industry. So I think I'm gonna steal that, and I'm gonna start referring to it as the packaging community versus the industry, because I like the way that sounds. I think it sounds better than industry. Industry sounds cold.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll take the royalties for that. No, I mean, I think that, a lot of people say that about, well, a couple of my good friends are nurses, and they say like their floor is a community, and, but that's like 15, 20 people. I feel like, as I'm sure you feel, if you needed to buy a pen, you knew who you could call. Or you knew you could call somebody who would then give you somebody to call. And I think that this industry creates an opportunity for you to be part of a community if you take advantage of it. If you open your arms to it. I've met some of my best friends. My closest friends are people that I met through this industry. We probably would have never crossed paths otherwise. People 20, 30 years my senior that, text me this morning and wish my daughter happy birthday. And that's community. That's not an industry. That's people that care about you and care about you doing well. And I feel so lucky to have just fallen into that, because I answered an ad on Indeed or something. I don't even remember what it was back then. It probably wasn't Indeed, but something like that. It's really, really cool. And I really try to share that with the students when we're with them about what type of effect the people that I've met in this industry have had on me, for good and bad, both ways.
Well, yeah, obviously there's
mostly good.
Yeah. It's not always going to be, roses and sunshine, right? So, from that perspective, I get it. It's the good times you remember, the bad times you turn into learning experiences, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
I like to think of them as opportunities.
Yeah, and Wexler has really given me the opportunity to do that. They've really given me the chance to grow into who I am. And I thank Patty for that. I know you had Patty on in season 1, and she's a dynamic person that I often say, do you know Patty? And if somebody says, I don't know, I said, oh, you never met Patty, because you either met Patty or you didn't. And I've learned a lot from her leadership skills and the opportunity to grow into who I am, both personally and professionally. I'm very lucky to work for a company that has given me a platform to grow and succeed. And that is, all I think anyone ever wants. So I can't say enough about my Wexler team. They're just fantastic. And I'm really lucky to work for a company that really cares about their employees and the industry and doing good. offering sustainable solutions in a time where we always say we were green before green was cool.
Yeah.
We were offering paper options when it wasn't even the quote unquote cool thing to do. So it's fun to be a part of that now when sustainability really is a pulse of what everybody does. So I
Yeah.
love that I get to be part of that as well.
So you mentioned earlier, and I kind of picked up on it. You said, number one, you have the gift of gab, and number two, you like people. Two of the things that made you my first choice, wide margin between you and anybody else I might have considered for asking to get involved with podcasting and with co-hosting a few episodes. And you've been great so far at helping me identify some potential guests. And, speaking of which, our first guest together, this intro is leading into that episode. We will be talking with Tom Seymour of Bison Bag, but talking more about his new venture, Mocha Energy. Really looking forward to connecting with him and talking about that. So any final thoughts before we bring Tom in?
Yeah, Tom's great. I've known him for over 10 years, and I'm excited to talk about Mocha and his new venture. And I'm just really excited to get to be co-hosting these episodes with you. So thank you for asking me to be here with you. It feels good to be asked. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate you and our friendship, and I'm looking forward to interviewing some of your amazing guests with you. So thanks again for letting me be along for the ride.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. Yeah. So with that, let's dive into it. Let's get Tom in here, and let's learn about Mocha Energy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Packaging Etc. podcast. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Tom Seymour. Tom is with Bison Bag, and he also has his own entrepreneurial adventure, which I'm really eager to learn more about. So with no further ado, allow me to introduce Tom. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
No, absolutely. Been looking forward to this one.
We've been waiting for quite a while here to get on and talk. So I'm excited to be with you today.
Yeah, I thought, third time's the charm, something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so as has become kind of the standard here, if you wouldn't mind, start off with just a quick introduction of who Tom Seymour is, what you're up to, a little bit about your background, kind of give people a flavor for who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess the best way to describe myself is a very motivated hustler that started very young, at a very young age, kind of obsessed with this idea of entrepreneurship. And no surprise, that led into a very successful career in hospitality, where I was fortunate enough to work in a fine dining establishment as head waiter and wine steward, and then continuing to lean into that entrepreneurship and jump into sales role in packaging and food manufacturing. Then working towards my true dreams and aspirations of being an entrepreneur myself and starting Mocha Energy. At the base of it, it's about the hustle, also about solving problems and making connections. I'm flattered to hear this said by some of my folks in my network, saying that I'm a super connector, which, I don't like to self-describe like that. I think that sounds boastful, but apparently to other people, I am a super connector. And so growing and building that Rolodex, I know that's an old school. If anybody's listening in their 20s and 30s, you probably don't know what a Rolodex is, but building that network and all those connections has been really rewarding. And so today I'm a business development and marketing manager for Bison Bag Company, Buffalo-based food flexible packaging manufacturer, where I'm leveraging my background in food manufacturing, food product development, food safety, food science, everything throughout the supply chain to come alongside my customers and help them scale and grow their businesses using Bison Bags packaging. And then, like I said, started my own food brand, Mocha Energy, the country's first whole bean coffee bar. It's a portable cup of coffee. You can take it with you on the go, 90 milligrams of caffeine, similar to a cup of coffee. It eats like chocolate, but it fuels and tastes like coffee.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I have to say, and I'm sure I speak for Kristen here as well, and Kristen, feel free to chime in. But I've really been looking forward to kind of, no pun intended, peeling back the layers on this Mocha Energy venture of yours. So really, really excited for you, and really eager to kind of learn more about it, and our listeners as well, give them an opportunity to learn about it. And then obviously we need to wrap up with where they can buy it, because we got to get that sales hook in there.
As someone who has a cup of coffee in their hand pretty much all day, every day, currently a brand new cup I brewed right before we started talking. When Tom shared this brand, I was like, okay, here we go. I had the buy-in instantly. So yeah, I think it's definitely a niche market where there's definitely an opportunity for people like me, like all three of us that are on the go, to get a burst of caffeine in a way that's unique. So I'm excited too.
Yeah, thank you. It's landed with a lot of people. I've had so much positive feedback. At this point, I think I've polled over 1,000 people. Trying to keep away from like my mom. I've certainly asked my mom her opinion, but you got to make sure you're going out and polling people that don't know you, because your friends always want to give you the best constructive criticism. And what I often tell people is constructive criticism needs to be direct. It's like going to the gym. If you don't add any resistance, you'll never grow. And the same way with constructive criticism, if it's not direct enough, well, then you're never going to grow. And so, yeah, I hope that this podcast is able to inspire. I certainly am excited to tell you more about Bison Bag and Mocha Energy and the journey of an entrepreneur and the challenges that I've faced. But more than that, I hope it inspires other people to chase their dreams and realize that entrepreneurship is possible for anybody that's willing to take the risk.
So I really appreciate the way you just phrased part of that response, specifically around the constructive criticism part, about your friends, because in my friend group, I am the ultimate troll. And I'm sure Kristen can corroborate that. Even in the professional circles, people that I'm more comfortable with, I love a good troll job. And so yeah, I'm not going to call it trolling anymore. I'm going to call it constructive criticism in my friend group. I like that. So that's my new hook.
Yeah, yeah. You know how it goes. Like, to make it more personal, like we've all gotten ready to go out at night, and you look to your significant other and you're like, hey, does this look okay? I think the reason I've been married for 22 years and with my wife for 25 years is because she'll look at me and give me that direct, no, go change that. That looks terrible. And that's not a bad thing. And, you just have to separate out your feelings from knowing that constructive criticism that's direct and can sometimes feel harsh, the person is doing it for your own good, and it's only going to help you grow and get better. Anything from simply changing an outfit to changing the way that you're doing something to chasing a dream, right?
Yeah.
For me, if you don't take a little bit of constructive criticism, then you're just stale. We started off this conversation before we recorded about how much we all love podcasts because you can grow from them and learn. And if you're not willing to take a little bit of feedback, especially from your significant other, I mean, if there's anyone who you should be able to receive it from, being them, it's important. And sometimes you get tunnel vision too. I think probably when it's your baby, right? When you're chasing a dream, you feel like it's the best thing ever. So if you're not getting real constructive criticism, whether that be from family, friends, or people that don't know you, you're not going to be able to see outside that tunnel and make changes that you need in order to grow the brand.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'd also say it's really quite interesting when you look at like the root of folks and their feedback to you that, they're trying to help. We're fortunate being people that grew up in the 80s and 90s. Kristen, maybe more 90s and early 2000s.
No, 80s and 90s.
Yeah, yeah. So we're fortunate. Like I feel for the younger listeners because I feel like we grew up with a little bit of a grittier, I played football and wrestling through high school and college, and I got to tell you, the coaches were intense, and that intensity and rawness developed something in me. And I think it's a commonality that I find with people our age. There wasn't a whole lot of safety guards in place when we were growing up. And I think probably the same going back generations, our parents and grandparents. And I feel like more recently, we've become a little bit softer. And I don't know that that is always the best. Like we said on the constructive criticism part, you certainly don't want people abusing other people. And, there's a line that has to be drawn. But at the same time, I feel like we tend to lean too far in the other direction and sometimes can do people a disservice by not being direct.
There needs to
Sorry.
be course corrections over time. Obviously, I mean, I remember, I'm old enough to say that I grew up playing baseball, and I remember specifically the entire baseball team sitting in the back of the coach's pickup truck, and he drove everybody home from practice. Not exactly kosher when it comes to, child safety. How far we've come from that type of moment, and I'm sure that this kind of stuff still happens somewhere, but by and large, I think people are much safer. And we joke about, oh well, it's survival of the fittest. If you're not holding on, then maybe you weren't meant to continue, kind of thing. But yeah, I feel like course correction is a definite necessity when you go too far in any one particular direction.
Tom, can you share with us, like, one of the things that you said was the hustle, and that really resonates with me because I think that, again, I don't want to gloat or speak highly of myself, but I think that in this industry, especially on the sales side, the hustle is something you either have or you don't. And obviously through seasons of life, that hustle can, rev up or rev down. But can you share a little bit about that, or, some of the things that you have shared with us about what skills you need in order to be successful, or what skills you felt helped you be successful in this industry, and how that kind of connects to the hustle?
Yeah, for sure. I'll go way back and I'll try to make it quick. As a kid, I was bigger than all the other kids. At 14 years old, I was 6 feet tall and weighed 215 pounds. So a monster compared to other seventh graders. So you can imagine as a fourth or fifth grader, I was a big kid and I was able to walk to the corner store because of it when all the other kids couldn't. And I would walk up there, I'd pick up crab apples in my neighbor's yard for a penny a piece. And I would take all those pennies up to Wilson Farms corner store, and I'd buy candy, and I'd load it into my wagon, and I would go back through the neighborhood like a Skippy truck, ringing a bell and flipping candy to kids that couldn't go up to the store, making a profit. So I look back at that, and I see that as like the genesis of like entrepreneurship in my life. I don't see a lot of kids. It's funny because my kids have gotten into some entrepreneurship hustles in their childhood, which I guess is just genetic for me, but you don't see a lot of that. And I think like at the root, having that drive is something that I feel like you're born with. It certainly can be developed. It certainly can be coached and grown. But some people I think just naturally have it. Additionally, I think adversity, I tell people like I lost more football games than I won in my career. And I learned so much more from losing than I ever did from winning. So adversity has built a lot in me. Specifically, when I think about adversity, I hear voices like my fifth grade teacher who told my parents that I was hyperactive and I would never graduate high school. Or my sister is a motivator for me. She was always pretty hard on me as a kid. And like, so I hear her voice. That's a motivation. Anybody that ever has been in my life that has been someone that has challenged my ability to succeed, I keep that and I use it for fuel. And in sales, it comes super easy because so many people think of salespeople as like these schmucky, like good for nothing, like necessity kind of. Like I've run into a lot of people, like, and unfortunately, a lot of times it's been engineers that kind of look down their nose at salespeople. And so I take that as so much fuel. That's what's driven me to become a technical expert in so many different areas. And I think it's the fuel that drives success, that you use other people's negative energy and like the thought that like you're less than them or that you can't achieve. That has been a huge tool in keeping me motivated, and keeping me successful. I think two other things though. So that's kind of on the negative side. Like I know that's kind of like a little bit darker way of saying like, hey, that's a driver. Two other prongs though that are not on the darker side. One is inspiration. I find that like many leaders try to motivate their people, and motivation, like it'll get you out there, it'll get you running the marathon, but unless you're inspired, you're not finishing the 25 miles. And so I've been fortunate that I've been surrounded by inspirational leaders, and I've tried to also put that into my leadership, mentorship, that like you get a whole lot more from people when you're inspiring them than you are motivating them. So I think that's another huge piece. And then another key tool, I spent 16 years in hospitality. And I think that people that have come from the hospitality industry are uniquely positioned, especially in a sales role, to really succeed because we have this HQ factor, our hospitality quotient. So, you've heard IQ, EQ. I like HQ, hospitality quotient, like the ability to read, empathize, sympathize, and delight other people, right? That's what it's about, whether it's a sales transaction or it's any transaction throughout the day in any relationship. If you're always thinking about how am I delighting the other party, you're going to win every time. And that comes from years and years and years in hospitality. It becomes ingrained in you. And so I think those three things, the drive from listening to the naysayers and letting that be fuel, the portion of remembering the inspiration aspect of success, and lastly, making sure that, you're exercising as much as you can on the hospitality side to grow that part of yourself, because that really, really sets you apart. So I hope that gives you a good answer. I know it was kind of long-winded, but I think those are really some of the key tools and pieces to it.
No, that was great. I do find it interesting, some of the points you made about events or interactions with people earlier in your life that still continue to shape who you are and who you want to be and the space you occupy in this world. I liken it to a scenario where one of my first jobs ever, I've been working since I was 12 years old. I used to deliver newspapers on the back of my bicycle in my neighborhood. But one of my favorite jobs ever, and if I could support a family, I always say this, if I could support my family on this job, I would go back in a heartbeat. I worked at Six Flags Great Adventure for 5 years. I worked in the games department, and I loved every minute of it. But some of the lessons that I learned through that role from 16 to 21 years of age still resonate with me, and I still use them. One was my supervisor. I don't remember what I had done, but I had made a mistake on the job, and my supervisor, Felicia, came to me and she said, "Matt, you can make every mistake in the book, but only make it once." And I understood in the minute she said it, she's basically saying, show me that you can learn from your mistakes and not make the same mistakes twice. And it's a mantra that I've used with my kids. I've used it with people on my team at work, employees, interns, you name it. It's a mantra that I've kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Perpetuated, I guess, would be a good word to use. And the other one, and I'm sure there's a million acronyms for it, but specifically the training that I went through, they called it LEAD training, LEAD. So listen, empathize, apologize, and direct. And this goes more towards your hospitality example where, if a customer in the park was having an issue, and even if you're not necessarily responsible for that area, you would listen to their issue, you would empathize with their plight, you would apologize for the poor experience, and then you would direct them on what their next steps would be. And like I said, I'm sure there's a million different acronyms and different ways of approaching that, but I still remember that training from 16, 17 years old, and I still use that in my professional life, even in my personal life now. So it's interesting, the parallels. I see that as well. Some of the formative experiences I had growing up.
Yeah, and I also think that another piece that doesn't always land great today because of how kind of fractured society is. But I also think that in my life, speaking about myself, I think that having a strong spirituality and faith have been also another key piece of it. And I think in maturing in that area of my life, it has forced me to surrender and realize that control is an illusion. You have influence over things, and you certainly can impact, how the journey goes. But ultimately, if you are gripping so hard and trying to control everything, if you can't release and let go of that control, that's incredibly freeing. And it's been a huge development personally and professionally. And also, like, continuing to surrender, it's humbling, and it reminds us that in addition to being an inspirational leader, we should be humble and we should be a servant style leader. And like when you operate like that, people really can connect to that, right? Like nobody likes someone that's boastful and proud. So every day I have to remind myself I have to surrender, control, and that surrender reminds me to be humble, and that my my true calling in life is to serve other people. And if you talk to any of the folks that I have had the incredible opportunity to interface with, I think the one common point that they would tell you is that I've served them well. And that is, at the end of the day, like, that's what matters to me, is that the people's lives that I get to touch, that they would say that. And I'm confident that that would be the resounding theme if you polled a group of folks, personally and professionally. And that's probably the thing I'm most proud of. Like I have a lot of different accomplishments, a lot of different frames on the wall and trophies, and all that stuff's great. But at the end of the day, that ends up in a box in a basement or eventually in a dumpster. But people remembering that you serve them well, that's, I think, for me, the biggest piece of legacy.
I think with maturity comes that humbling opportunity. I will say that for you, now that I have two young kids and I'm in kind of like the next season of my life, if you will. When I first started in sales, I had, nothing. I lived in a one bedroom apartment by myself and I just grinded all day, and then you go through the seasons of your life and you realize that, and Matt can attribute to this, that I am a type A. So for me, I do attempt to be in control as much as I can, but I chuckled when you said, like, you're not in control, Tom, because you're really not. You can drive the bus, but you're not in full control of where you're going. And I think taking a deep breath every once in a while and reminding yourself of that is important. And I also love that you said to be a servant, because I think, you can speak of that from like a spiritual concept, which I'm in line with. But I do agree with you, in this, current climate of the world, not everyone agrees with that. But even if you take a spirituality out of it, just be a good person. I think ultimately, if you can put your head on your pillow at the end of the night and know that you were good to the people around you, personally, professionally, hold the door for somebody, say good morning. In the city of Philadelphia, they would say, like, you hold the door at Wawa and you say, go birds. Like, that's just like just being a good person,
Yep.
And I think sometimes we lose sight of that in all of our hustle, right? Because we're just trying to get to the next part of our day. We're just trying to close the deal. We're just trying to, in an engineering mindset, get the line up and running. And we forget about the human interaction and the day to day. And ultimately, when you put your head on your pillow at the end of the night, can you be happy with the way that you interacted with the humans in your life? Ultimately, that's the biggest. I agree with you on that, Tom. That's ultimately what you're going to take with you, not the stuff that you put in a box.
Yeah, don't let efficiency rob you of caring for other people, right? Because it's very easy. You and I are very much the same. Like if I'm not mindful of it, I can put my head down and just grind
Yeah.
and focus on and I can be extremely efficient. The challenge there is you have to come up for air and realize that efficiency can rob you of important
Happiness.
important joy, more joy than happiness, and like the important parts of like building community and relationship. And so anyways, it's a balancing act. And I think that like packaging and specifically the natural food segment, there's so much collaboration, there's so much relationship. I got to tell you that like in the natural food space, all my brand owners that I make packaging for Bison Bag, that they've become my friends, like really good friends, like to the point that we'll go to trade shows, we'll travel together, we eat together, we stay in Airbnbs together. And it's a really cool, I never thought I'd be in a profession where I had my customers and my partners as tight and close as I would consider my friends and family. And it makes it so much more rewarding. And I feel like the natural food space is just very different than any other sector of the industry that I've interfaced with. There's a lot of founders, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of collaboration. And so when it was time to like figure out how to extend into entrepreneurship and like get on that journey, because for a long time, I once heard a presentation, and the presentation was talking about the Grand Canyon, and it was talking about two different types of people. One type of person goes to the Grand Canyon and they go to the edge of it and they look over and they say, wow, that is so beautiful. And they go home and they'll tell their friends, like, I experienced the Grand Canyon. And then you have another person that will go and they will venture into the canyon and they'll hike it and they'll experience it in that way. And so the point of that talk was like, don't be a rim hugger, because you're not truly experiencing it unless you're hiking into the canyon. And so I found myself up on that rim looking over and being like, I don't know if I can hike into that canyon. Like, it seems really difficult and there's a lot of risk, and I don't know if I can do this. And I kept having people behind me that were like nudging me to like jump, get in, go, do it. And one day I woke up and I just decided like, hey, I'm in my mid 40s. This is something that I've always wanted to pursue. It's now or never. And I jumped in and I got in and I started the hike. And I got to say, it's been one of the most rewarding, and specifically because the product falls into the natural product space. Um, it has been difficult. I tell people very often that like it's not about, like, in our sales careers, Kristen, you could agree with this, like it's about peaks. Like Friday, I booked $500,000 in purchase orders, right? Like peak celebration. I go up from my home office, I'm high-fiving my wife and kids, right? Calling my boss, celebrating. Like, that's been my sales career. That's been like just peak after peak after peak. I've been blessed that I've been successful. In the entrepreneur's journey, the peaks come very few and far between. And so what I figured out is that the measure of success can no longer be peaks. You have to measure how you navigate the valleys as your measure of success. And when you look at it that way, every day you wake up as an entrepreneur, you have an obstacle. You have something out in front of you that's incredibly difficult to deal with. And finding that pivot, finding that solution, that alternative, that partner, and working through those obstacles, that's the success of an entrepreneur. And then eventually you put enough of those together and it leads to a peak, right? And then that's easy enough. Then the champagne corks pop and we celebrate, and that's exciting. But if people thinking about entrepreneurship could take anything from this, it's realizing that don't let yourself get beat up. Flip the script and look at it from that perspective, that every day you're gonna be faced with a challenge, and every day your measure of success should be how you've overcome that challenge. So kind of two very different mindsets for two very different industries. And I feel fortunate to have the experience of both.
I kind of share, a similar sentiment because, now granted, I'm not coming from the sales side like you are. I'm coming from the engineer side. I can say, little side note here, I can think back through my career and I could name the salespeople that I've dealt with that I felt like I needed to take a shower after I hung up the phone with them, because they just felt like a
Oh no.
greasy used car salesperson. And they're the ones that give salespeople a bad name. By and large, most of the people
Agreed.
I've dealt with in sales have been fine. I can also count on one hand, maybe a second, the sales reps that I don't care what they're selling, I would buy from them because they're just genuinely good people. And those are the ones that really kind of stand out. So yeah, I can understand, and I've experienced that dynamic, but from the end user side versus the supplier side.
Some of us out there that are good, some of us that are really good. And I think we've all experienced in any industry those not so good salespeople. Funny enough, I was talking to my sister and brother-in-law this week. They brought their car to a garage. I won't mention the brand of the garage. And the customer service rep, they were talking through like needing to get something done. And the customer service rep looked at my brother-in-law and said, "Well, I'm really sorry, but we don't do what's convenient for customers." And I thought, like, as a salesperson, like, wow, sales and customer service, because sales and customer service go hand in hand. It's like, wow, that person doesn't get it. And so unfortunately, there are a lot of different people out there that represent, my profession, sales, business development. And unfortunately, we tend to always remember the worst of life's experiences. That's another thing I try to be mindful of, is to not let those bad experiences be the ones that dictate how I think about a situation, a person, a place, but rather to really let the bright spots shine. And again, that takes some mindfulness, because I think as humans we tend to lean into, hey, let me tell you about my brother-in-law's story with this terrible customer service rep. And that's the really damning part for a salesperson, is that you can very quickly put yourself in a situation that you can't get out of. So another one that I give people, another kind of cliche, I love my cliche and my analogies, but another one that I often give people is, it's very easy on our best day to pat ourselves on the back and celebrate how great of a job we've done. But the true measure of character is how we respond in the face of adversity. So the day that the line didn't run so great and products getting out late, or a quality error occurred. Imagine that in manufacturing, a quality error occurs, and it's how you then square your shoulders and look at your partner, your customer, and figure out, what can I do to make the best of this situation and work through and fix it. And at the end of the day, that to me is like, that's knowing that you're successful, um, because those situations come up a lot. And I've seen a lot of people tuck tail and run, people that aren't comfortable falling on the sword. They don't want to take the responsibility. They don't want to take their medicine, whatever you want to call it. But the best of us, that's what makes us the best, is that in those hard times, we're able to work through and fix. And so I guess that is a lean into like that whole valley analogy that I gave you on the entrepreneur side, because I had some experience through, manufacturing. Like, you do have, it doesn't matter where I've worked, you always have, manufacturing has tons of variables. So you always have something on any given day that you're trying to work through and fix. And so that kind of was the training for the entrepreneurship. It just so turns out that, like, at least there's a lot of peaks on the manufacturing side to celebrate. On the entrepreneur side, it feels like, because I'm earlier on, it feels like they're a little bit farther between, and it feels like there's a lot more obstacles to work through, because now you're working through, raising funds and picking a co-packer and selecting ingredients and trying to get the ear of these retailers and turning on sales channels and working through trademarking. And there's just so many things. And every single one of them is a challenge and a trial. So that's where it's kind of different than like the manufacturing side, where you are dealing with those things, but they're definitely farther and fewer between. And they're a lot easier to deal with because it's someone else's business. There's a team of people behind you to support you. Whereas when you're an entrepreneur, the buck stops with you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
I often say at Wexler, the machine will break. What happens when that happens?
Yep.
Because it'll always break the busiest week of the year when your maintenance guy's on vacation. I mean, that's just life in manufacturing. But to your point, you can, you can stick your head in the sand, or you can work with your customer to help make a resolution. And I think that's what people remember, because things always go wrong.
I agree. And I also think that like by talking about it, like we live on this weird, like I found this also with parenting, like, I have two kids, Riley and Brianna, ages 12 and 14, soon to be 13 and 15. Great kids. But as they were growing up, like no one gave me a manual on how to raise them. I don't know, Kristen, if you have the manual, maybe you'd share it with me.
You guys didn't get a copy?
Matt,
No,
can
I
you
didn't
send
get
that
a
over?
copy.
Oh, sorry.
And so, yeah, so trying to figure out like how to work through situations and feeling like you're on an island, because God forbid you tell other parents that like your house and your kids are not perfect. Like that's the scariest thing ever. And I went to this parenting class, and all of a sudden like people started talking about all the same nonsense that I was dealing with. And I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't just happening to me. I feel the same way about manufacturing. I feel like we're all corralled onto this weird island that like we can't admit that in manufacturing there's a million variables, many of which are out of our control. And but we're not to talk about it, and we're to pretend that like everything always goes great, because if you talk about it, you're going to spook customers and they're going to go away and you might not grow your business. And the customers don't really want to hear about the problems, the variables, the potential risks, right? They kind of want to bury their head in the sand and think like, okay, I'm going to put it in this purchase order and everything's going to go perfect. And yeah, 95% of the time that is the case. But it's the 5% that we don't talk about. And I feel like it's such an important thing that we all recognize, so that more and more people understand that we're all definitely trying our best. And if you look upstream, it's no different. Once you get into the co-packer, or if the brand owner runs their own manufacturing process, if you really have the bravery to dig in and say like, hey, yeah, I realize we've had this issue and like we worked through it. I'd like to explore a little bit more about your process. Like, do you guys ever have this stuff happen? And lo and behold, they do. Right. And like when you start talking about it, all of a sudden it takes like the pressure off of like, hey, you have to be perfect 100% of the time. And it opens up like, hey, this happens to all of us. And it's not about being perfect. It goes back to what I said before about when things don't go perfectly, are we strong enough to face the problem, fix the problem, and move past it? And then in reflection, rather than thinking like, oh, that's a mar on the relationship, realizing that, wow, that was resistance. And that resistance made us stronger and grew us. Going back to that weightlifting analogy. So again, it's making sure that we're talking about this stuff and then framing it and then reflecting and not allowing it to be the opposite talk track.
I'm often reminding my salespeople to make sure that they're having those conversations with a customer after something goes wrong. Because in the moment, it's urgent, right? The ambulance is at the front door and it's like, we got to do this now. But when you can look back on it and say like, okay, well, what really went wrong? Did someone order incorrectly? Did someone not do a PM on a machine? Did the setup go wrong? What things can we help to deal with now that we've learned that something can go wrong, to make it not happen again? And I think most people love that conversation, because you can kind of laugh about it in that moment and be like, wow, that was painful, but you can commiserate on how to make it better, or how it was frustrating, and then how to make it better from there. And I think like we're all just people. I always tell my salespeople, like, we put our pants on every day, just like they do, So when you're calling somebody and you're talking to somebody on the phone, the goal is to just solve a problem or help solve a problem. Ultimately, if you can do that, you're just talking to another human. That's it.
Well, those are the sales reps that we remember, right? Those are the ones that, I can say decidedly that they were shoulder to shoulder with me walking through whatever issue may have arisen. Those are the people I know I can rely on when the times get tough, right? How do you respond to the adversity? like Tom mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I do want to be mindful of time. We're going to run out of time soon. So I did want to kind of circle back a little bit. And Tom, I know you already started giving us a little bit of background, but I did want to ask about the genesis of Mocha Energy, and then more specifically, kind of where you're at right now, and what the next couple of years look like for your brand.
Yeah, thank you. So, as I said, I've always had the itch for entrepreneurship. I've been a coffee fanatic my whole life, addicted to black coffee. It's my Nona's fault because when I was like, I don't know, 9, 10 years old, they came over from Sicily. And so very traditional Sunday dinners. My grandpa continued farming when he came to this country and grew all their own veggies. And we had a rabbit shed on the farm. And often on Sundays, the meat and the sauce was rabbit, and grew his own grapes, made his own garage wine. I started drinking that garage wine in a very European manner at like 8 or 9 years old. And then after dinner, my grandma would always take a mocha express pot, and she would brew this dark, tarry liquid that she called coffee. And they drank it out of the espresso cups. And as a kid, we would load heaps of sugar into it because it was so dark and bitter. But I think that was like my beginning love for coffee, like the taste and the energy that the caffeine gives. And so, over the years, I grew an appreciation for black coffee, no cream, no sugar. And I had met my co-founder, Omar, and he had this really great, like, conventional coffee candy that he had created. He tried to launch it into the market, but for a number of reasons, his background and expertise was not supply chain. And so unfortunately, it failed. And I tracked him down and said, like, hey, I need more of this stuff. It was delicious. What happened? We kind of talked about it. And I said, well, look, what if I told you that I could reformulate this? Because I think there's some things inherently in the formula that need to change. And I can put together a full supply chain leaning into my network and experience, and we can take this and it'll be successful. Like, I have a high level of confidence. And he said, sure, if you can do that, we'll partner. And so that's what I did. I started behind the scenes, just really putting together the entire supply chain. I took a course at Cornell in food product development through Food Spark, just to brush up and add another certificate to the wall. And I used Mocha Energy as the thesis. And out of that came a company. And Omar and I realized that, like, we needed another person to help support us. So we brought in Jessica Kwong, who is the founder of Jack and Friends Jerky. It's a jackfruit jerky brand, successfully going. And she's a food scientist, graduated from Cornell University. So she brought the food science even deeper than I do, and supplemented upstream. Like, I'm really solid, like, on the manufacturing side, and pretty good on the sales channel and upstream. But Jessica really had been living in it with Jack and Friends. So the three of us, formed this super team. And I tell people, I think we're uniquely investable. So for all the investors out there that are listening, we're uniquely investable because we have such a high level of experience that, unlike a lot of founders in startups, we're much less likely to stub our toe or make the mistake because we've been doing it for a long time. We have the network and support around us. And so not only is the product innovative and different, incremental to the category, outstanding flavor, functional, has these great health claims, but you have a team around it that is rock solid. And so I know it's my idea, my belief. So of course I'm going to tell you, like, it's guaranteed success. There's no guaranteed success in entrepreneurship or in life, but I do believe that we have an unfair advantage that others don't. So we've progressed along, following all the steps. We've been blessed. My brother is a graphic designer and does it professionally. So my website, my packaging, my branding, brand identity, he's done all the design work for us. And it's cost us nothing. Cornell University Law Department has given us 2 years of free legal services on a special program that I applied for. So we've been very fortunate. Those are the relationships that I'm talking about that we can lean into because we have the experience. And so, yeah, here we are. We're on the cusp of launch. We've run a factory trial. Our co-packer is getting ready to run a production run to support late Q4 e-commerce launch. We have a major national retailer that's given us a letter of interest to put the product in their grocery store in Q2 of 2026. I have like 15 small independent retailers that are, clamoring to get their hands on it as soon as it's available. So yeah, we're working right now to raise $600K in a pre-seed round. We've had a lead investor come in. We're looking for more folks to come in and support so that we can, scale and get this thing off the ground and get that trajectory going in the right direction. But yeah, it's been an amazing ride, and we're pretty excited and pretty confident about what's to come ahead. I think looking out a little bit longer, we're looking at launching bites out into the market. We're looking at launching wafers and chips for inclusions and enrobing on the B2B side. We have a really good market channel strategy, and inevitably, I would love to position it for exit, 7 to 10 years out. I'd love to take it, build it, grow it, introduce the world to it, and then find a large corporation that, can really take it to the next level. And my big dream is then, if that were to happen, to take that windfall and become a supporter of other dreamers. So like right now, my hardest thing is getting access to capital. And I want to be that guy that I take all the mentoring that I do right now for brands and all the practical solution stuff on helping them figure out their supply chain. But I also want to layer on top of it, hey, I had a successful exit and I can help you and I can help fund you and like help other dreamers realize their dreams.
That's awesome.
Makes my heart warm and fuzzy, as I like to say to my kids.
Makes me want to go out and buy a box of these things.
I know. I agree.
I hope so. I hope when people try it, they love it as much as I do. Like I said, we've spent a lot of time on the quality, the texture, the sensory, the user experience. That's where a lot of caffeinated snack has gone wrong. So people will say like, well, there's other stuff out there in the market. Like, why are you different? We're different, not only because it's portable cup of coffee and it's functional and clean label, but at the heart of it, the user experience it's a premium. It's the best in the market. Like you put it in your mouth and you're wowed by it. You're not like, well, okay, I guess it's functional and has caffeine, so I'll eat it. You want to go back for more. And then you realize like, oh, I don't have to feel bad about this. It feels and tastes like a decadent treat, but it's not crashing my wellness goals. And so all that stuff is important to me. It's just, it's how to communicate all of it because there's so much wrapped up, no pun intended, in the bar. It's hard for me to like get it all across to people without droning on and on and on about all these different things. So to be concise, I've cut it down to, hey, it's a portable cup of coffee. You can't put your cup of coffee or your latte in your backpack or purse, but for that second or third cup occasion, for that midday pick-me-up, that slump, you can throw mocha in your bag and you can enjoy a cup of coffee anywhere in the world.
That's a great hook. I like it. So we do need to wrap up, but for final thoughts, wanted to give you each an opportunity if there's anything else you wanted to express or share.
I would just say that if there's any investors listening to the podcast, please reach out to me. We need your help. And then for anybody listening right now on the website, you can go buy our whole coffee beans. They're the same beans that we use to make the bar. Rather than running a Kickstarter, I started an e-commerce program myself with whole coffee beans. They're a little bit expensive, $20 a bag, but you're not buying coffee beans. You're buying a seat on the bus for this entrepreneurial journey. You'll get added to our newsletter list. And I would certainly appreciate every dollar spent on a bag of coffee is going directly to help fuel our dream. And then, you can go to www.mochaenergy.com, MOKA energy.com. And in December, you'll be able to buy all 3 SKUs of the bars. But right now, you can certainly go buy a bag of coffee and help support the journey.
Great. Well, that website, just so everyone's aware, that website will be available also, obviously in the audio recording, but it will also be available in the transcript posted on Buzzsprout, whatever podcasting website you use, and the YouTube channel for this podcast, Packaging, Etc. podcast. You'll be able to get that website out of the transcript as well. Sorry, Kristen, I know you had something to say there as well.
That's okay. I was just going to say thanks for sharing the story, Tom, because when I thought about you for this podcast, the thing that I love the most was that you decided. There's a lot of us that are, we think about things and we want to do it, but it takes a specific type of person to wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this. And I think, like you said, for the dreamers out there, you can do it. And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. So thanks for sharing that story about that transition. And I think I'm super excited for you. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah, just remember, don't be a rim hugger. Hike that canyon. That's what life's about.
Sounds good. I do have 2 final things I wanted to share before we wrap up. One, I do have to offer an opinion disclaimer. Earlier in this episode, someone did share the words "Go Birds." So that is a statement that clarifies that the opinions expressed are solely those of the individual and not necessarily those of the Packaging, Etc. podcast. Had to get that out.
She meant go Bills. Go Bills.
Actually,
yes.
But as the host, I do get to say go Broncos. We did beat the Birds this year, so I'm very happy about that. But the last thing is during after one of my episodes from season 1, which we are now into season 2, a close friend had recommended that I put a hook into each episode that would be some type of packaging trivia. So I did find an interesting little tidbit that I wanted to share with both of you and with our listeners. And that is Braille was invented in 1824, but its first inclusion in packaging wasn't until 2005, when the European Union passed a mandate including Braille labeling on bottles. I thought that was really kind of interesting.
That is.
Wow.
So with that, I want to thank you both so much for your time. Tom, it's been great talking and catching up. Kristen, I really appreciate you coming in and co-hosting this episode, and looking forward to more opportunities for us to work together. This has been a great time, a great learning experience. And Tom, wishing you the best of luck with Mocha. Really hope it takes off like you are projecting. Best of luck there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good luck.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate the support.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Packaging Etc. podcast. We hope you enjoyed the content and maybe learned something new. If you have ideas for future guests or topics, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send a connection request on LinkedIn or visit www.precisionengsolutions.com and use the contact form. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us once more on the next episode of the Packaging Etc. podcast. Until then,